"Do you want to have dinner with us?" a small girl asked a lonely man sitting alone on Christmas Eve. It was Christmas Eve. The city was glowing with lights, full of happy people, carolers singing and kids laughing. But for Liam Bennett, none of it felt joyful. He sat all alone on a park bench, wearing a fancy wool coat, polished shoes, and carried the look of a successful young CEO. But the way he sat, his slouched shoulders, his quiet stare, showed something deeper: loneliness. Around him, people walked past carrying shopping bags and sipping hot cocoa. Their laughter floated in the cold air. But Liam had said no to his family's big fancy party long ago. He didn't want fake smiles or polite small talk. He wanted silence. He thought that maybe, just maybe, it would bring him peace. But now that he had it, it felt more like punishment. He closed his eyes and listened to the world go on without him. Another holiday with no real meaning. Another year without connection. Then he heard something, tiny footsteps on the snow. He opened his eyes. A little girl stood in front of him. She looked around 3 years old. Her golden curls poked out from under a red coat that looked old and thin. Her eyes, bright blue and full of life, stared up at him. She held a crumpled paper bag like it was the most precious thing in the world. Liam was about to say something when she spoke first. "Sir, do you want to have Christmas Eve dinner with me and my mommy?" Her voice was soft, sweet, and full of hope. It cut right through the coldness inside Liam. He blinked, surprised. Before he could even answer, she gently reached for his hand and gave it a small tug, firm but kind. And somehow his body stood up. He let her pull him from the bench like she was inviting him into something special. Snowflakes brushed his face. His expensive pants brushed fresh snow. But for the first time in a long while, he felt warm. They walked together, her little coat brushing against his leg, her tiny fingers wrapped around his hand. People walking by noticed, a rich man and a small child. Some smiled, others whispered, but Liam didn't care. With every step, his frozen heart thawed just a little. They turned down a quiet street filled with small apartment buildings, soft yellow lights glowing from the windows. It wasn't fancy like the mansions Liam was used to, but somehow it felt more like home. He looked down, meaning to say something, to remind the girl that he was a stranger. But she looked up and smiled, then squeezed his hand tighter, like she already knew this was right. The street felt peaceful. Snow crunched under their shoes. The noise of the city faded away. Finally, they stopped in front of a small brick building with a simple wreath and a string of twinkling lights. The little girl jumped forward. "Right here, sir. This is where we live." Before she could knock, the door opened. A young woman stood there holding a small bag of groceries. She had golden hair in a loose braid and tired but kind blue eyes. She looked at Liam for just a moment, surprised, cautious, and curious all at once. "Emma," the little girl said proudly, "this is the man who's coming to eat Christmas dinner with us." She looked at her daughter, then at Liam. She didn't speak first, but after a moment, her face softened. She stepped aside. "Come in," she said quietly. Liam hesitated for a second, and then walked inside. The apartment smelled of roast chicken and warm bread. A small table sat in the middle, set with mismatched plates and a flickering candle. The soft light danced on walls covered in Sophie's crayon drawings. Sophie, he had now heard her name, ran to the table, jumped onto a chair, and patted the seat across from her. She looked up at him, serious and excited. He couldn't look away. He slowly sat down. Emma placed a plate of food in front of him without saying much, then sat beside her daughter. For a moment, no one said anything. Then Sophie said, quietly and sincerely, "Merry Christmas, sir." Emma gave a small smile, real, warm, like not the forced ones he usually saw at business parties. Liam looked at both of them and replied, "Merry Christmas." His voice was rough with emotion he had pushed down for years. They ate slowly. The food was simple, but full of care, and the warmth in that small room was more comforting than anything Liam had felt in years.
The apartment was small, just a kitchen and living room in one cozy space, but Liam didn't care. The candlelight flickered gently, and the warmth of the room wrapped around him like a soft blanket. On the wall was a small, colorful Christmas tree made out of paper and crayon stars. It was clearly handmade, clearly loved. Sophie chatted while she ate, telling silly stories about her snowman friend named Sir Sprinkle. Liam found himself smiling, even laughing softly. He felt something loosen in his chest. Emma moved quietly, giving him seconds without asking. He tried to stop her. "It's okay, I'm fine," he said. But she just smiled and replied, "You look like someone who hasn't had a real meal in a long time." She didn't mean just food. And she was right. This wasn't just about dinner. It was about something he hadn't had in years. Care, kindness, peace. As he sat in that tiny kitchen, surrounded by a crayon-decorated wall, mismatched plates, and one sweet little girl, Liam felt something settle inside him. Like his heart had been drifting for a long time, and now it had finally landed somewhere safe. After the dishes were cleared, Emma insisted on doing them herself. Liam sat back down. Sophie had fallen asleep on the couch, curled up under a fluffy blanket, a smudge of frosting still on her cheek. The apartment was quieter now, but even cozier. Emma joined him again, this time with 2 mugs of tea. It wasn't fancy, flowery, and a little too sweet, but Liam welcomed it with a grateful smile. He looked over at the sleeping Sophie. "She's a great kid," he said softly. Emma nodded, her voice full of love. "She's everything." There was a pause. Then Liam asked, "How long have you been doing this on your own?" Emma looked down at her cup, slowly running her finger around the rim. "Since I was 21. I was in college, studying to be a teacher. I wanted to run a classroom with paper stars hanging from the ceiling." She gave a sad smile. "Then I met someone, older, charming, said all the right things. I believed him." She didn't have to explain. Liam understood. He could hear the heartbreak behind the words. "My parents didn't support me. When I told them I was keeping the baby, they said I was ruining my life. I left home 2 days later. I kept waiting for him to come back, but he never did." Liam's chest ached. "So, you raised her all by yourself?" he asked gently. Emma nodded. "I've worked everywhere. Restaurants, cleaning jobs, phones, whatever pays the rent. It hasn't been easy, but I've never once regretted Sophie." There was no bitterness in her voice, no blame, just quiet strength. Liam looked at her, silent. Her life was nothing like his, but somehow it made sense to him. He felt it deep in his bones. "Do you ever get angry?" he asked. surprised at his own question. Emma met his gaze. Of course, but I learned something early. Anger eats more than it feeds. It doesn't fix anything. No point in blaming the weather, she added with a soft laugh. You just wear a better coat. Liam let out a breath. A tiny laugh escaped his lips. That made sense. Then he looked down, thoughtful. My family's rich, like private planes, charity galas, buildings with our name on them kind of rich. But my mom hasn't hugged me since I was 10. My dad thinks I'm a failure because I didn't take over his company. I started my own when I was 18. Didn't speak to them for 3 years. Emma didn't say anything right away. She listened. Really listened. When he finished, she reached across the table and gently placed her hand over his. Maybe they love you, she said softly. They just don't know how to show it. Liam looked at her. No pity in her eyes. Only warmth, understanding. And something broke open inside him. Not in a painful way, but like something heavy had finally been set down. For years he had buried those feelings beneath success, money, power. But in that tiny kitchen, lit by one candle and filled with quiet honesty, someone saw the real him and didn't walk away.
And that was enough. The days after Christmas were slow and peaceful. The snow still covered the streets, but Liam didn't feel the cold the way he used to. Something inside him had changed. He started visiting more often, not because he had to, and not out of guilt. He just wanted to. The small apartment with its crooked little tree and mismatched dishes felt like the only place in the whole city where he could breathe. Sometimes he brought little things with him. A box of fresh pastries from a bakery, or a new storybook he thought Sophie might like. One day, he noticed the kitchen light flickering. The next morning, he showed up with a step stool and a new bulb. "Let me fix it," he said, smiling. "I'm not doing this to be polite. I'm doing it because I want to." Anna looked at him for a moment, her expression soft and warm. As the days passed, they talked more. Their conversations became easy and comforting. While Sophie played with her crayons or built towers from cereal boxes, Liam and Anna would sit nearby, sipping tea or folding laundry together. Sometimes Liam helped Sophie with puzzles, while Anna cooked dinner, and then the three of them would sit down and eat, just like a family. It became their little rhythm, their gentle routine. One snowy afternoon, Liam called and said he'd be stopping by with a few surprises. The snow was coming down hard, but he didn't care. He just wanted to see them. Anna opened the door, surprised. "You're gonna catch a cold in this weather," she said, laughing a little. Liam smiled, holding a small paper bag. "Worth it." He stepped inside and carefully pulled something wrapped in soft tissue paper from the bag. "What's this?" Anna asked as she slowly unwrapped it. It was a cream-colored knit scarf. Thick, warm, beautiful, with delicate stitching and elegant texture. She stared at it, frozen for a second. "This looks like," she whispered, her voice catching. Liam nodded. "You told me once when we were folding laundry that you lost a scarf just like it on the subway a few years ago. You looked sad for a second, and then laughed and said it was silly to miss a scarf." Anna looked at the scarf. Then she looked at him. "You remember that?" Liam nodded softly. I don't remember much these days. People talk, I forget things quickly, but I remembered that. I remembered you. You're the first person I wanted to remember. Anna blinked quickly. Her hands gripped the scarf just a little tighter. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. So she just nodded, slowly, carefully. It wasn't about the scarf. It was about being seen. It was about someone caring enough to notice the little things and remembering them. And right there, in that quiet hallway, something shifted. It wasn't a big moment, no dramatic speeches, just a man standing in front of a woman, offering her something real. A scarf, a memory, a quiet message. You matter to me.
After that snowy afternoon, things just settled into place. Liam kept coming back. Not because he felt like a guest anymore, but because it started to feel like he belonged there. Some nights, he'd stop by after work with groceries or takeout. One evening, he showed up with a bag of pasta and declared, "I'm cooking dinner tonight." Anna raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure?" she asked, half smiling. "Absolutely," he said with confidence, though it faded a little once he actually started cooking. His pasta sauce was too salty, the noodles stuck together, he burned the garlic. But Sophie clapped like he was a magician. "Best pasta ever!" she giggled. Anna sat at the table, watching him with amusement and something softer in her eyes. She didn't say she was falling for him. He didn't say it either. But it was there. In the way she looked up when the door opened, already knowing it would be him. In the way he stayed a little longer each night, not in a hurry to get back to his high-rise apartment. In the way Sophie had started calling him our Liam when talking to her stuffed animals. There were no big love declarations, no dramatic scenes, just small, quiet moments. The scarf she always wore now neatly folded by the door. The light bulb he had changed that still worked perfectly. The third plate that was now a permanent spot at the table. They were becoming something, together. Not a perfect family, not a fairy tale, but something real. Just a few days after Christmas, the snow still sparkled outside, but inside their home, the glow of warmth had only grown stronger. One night after dinner, Sophie fell asleep on the couch again, curled against Anna, clutching her favorite stuffed snowman. Liam and Anna stayed at the table, sipping tea in the soft light. There was no music playing, just the hum of the heater, the flicker of candlelight, and the sound of their hearts slowly opening. Anna looked down at her mug, then said quietly, "Christmas never really felt like mine." Liam looked at her, listening. "When I was a kid, we didn't have much. No tree, just some lights taped to the window. One year my mom cut a Christmas tree picture from a magazine and stuck it on the wall. One year we wrapped tinsel around a broom and called it our Christmas stick." She gave a quiet laugh, then looked over at Sophie. "After I had her, our first Christmas together, we had nothing. Just a rented room with no heat. I held her all night and hummed carols to make it feel magical." Her voice was soft but steady. "Each year I've tried to make it better. I found that tiny plastic tree at a thrift shop. It's missing a leg, so I tape it to the wall. She doesn't know. To her, it's enough. But I know it's missing." Liam's eyes drifted toward the little blinking plastic tree in the corner. Paper stars, crayon ornaments, a bent paper star at the top. Full of love, but clearly not whole. "She's never had a real tree?" he asked. Anna shook her head. "Not even once." That night, after Anna fell asleep beside Sophie on the couch, Liam quietly slipped out. Snowflakes floated through the air as he walked the quiet streets, with a plan already in his heart.
The next morning, Sophie woke up as usual. Early,
full of energy and curious as ever. She ran to the window, hoping to see more snow. But what she saw made her stop in her tracks. Then came her scream, "Mommy! Mommy, come quick!" Anna jumped from the couch, still half asleep. "What's wrong?" But Sophie didn't answer. She was already at the front door, swinging it open with wide eyes and a glowing smile. Anna rushed to her side and froze. There, right outside their apartment door, stood a beautiful, real pine tree, fresh and full, its branches lightly dusted with snow. Wrapped around it were soft white lights and tiny silver bells that gently chimed in the morning breeze. A red scarf was tied around the base like a blanket. At the very top was a gold paper star, slightly bent, handmade, familiar. And beneath the tree, 3 presents, wrapped in plain brown paper, tied with red string. Simple, thoughtful, magical. Sophie twirled in delight. "He came, Mommy! Santa really came!" Anna crouched down, her heart pounding. She gently picked up one of the gifts. Taped to the front was a small envelope with handwriting she already knew well. "For Sophie, from your secret Santa." She didn't need to guess who it was. He wasn't there. No footsteps in the snow, no note saying he had stopped by, but somehow his presence filled the space. Anna touched the tree, brushing the cold needles. Her fingers lingered on the star at the top. For so many years, she had tried to create magic out of almost nothing. She had held it all together with love and tape and faith. But now, someone had helped her. Not with grand gifts, not with luxury, but with kindness, with care. He had given her daughter something she'd never had before, a real Christmas morning, and he had done it quietly, without fanfare, expecting nothing in return. Inside, the old plastic tree still blinked in the corner. But now, it wasn't the center of everything anymore. Because outside, someone had given them something much greater than decorations or toys. He gave them the feeling of being seen, of being loved. Anna looked down the hallway, hoping to catch a glimpse of Liam. He wasn't there, but her eyes still filled with tears, not from sadness, but from something warmer, something that sounded a lot like hope.
By March, the snow had melted. The streets were slushy, and tiny green buds peeked out from branches. Spring was coming, and in a small apartment filled with paper butterflies and sunshine through cracked windows, Sophie was counting down the days to her very first birthday party. She was turning 4. To most, it didn't seem like much, but for Anna, it meant everything. It was the first time she could afford to buy a cake, the first time Sophie had real friends from daycare to invite, the first time her daughter would wear a princess dress, not borrowed, but bought just for her. And for Sophie, the biggest excitement of all was a name she repeated again and again. Liam. Liam had promised her with a pinky swear, "I'll be the first one at your door, 8 a.m. sharp, with a surprise." Anna had watched that promise happen. Her heart was full, but also just a little afraid. Liam had always been good to them, kind, steady, warm, but part of her still carried an old fear, the fear of being left behind. 2 days before Sophie's birthday, Liam was in a boardroom in Singapore when his phone rang. A surprise meeting, a big merger, and the only time the other CEO would meet was on Sophie's birthday. Liam froze. His chest tightened. The meeting was too important to cancel, but his heart felt heavy. That night, he called Anna. His voice was low, unsure. "I might not make it back in time. I'm trying. I swear I'm trying." Anna didn't get angry. She just said gently, "You've already done so much." But then softer, "It's just, she sees you as family now. She's not waiting for presents, Liam. She's waiting for you." Liam sat in silence long after the call ended. March 17, Sophie's birthday. Back in New York, Anna had been up early. The kitchen smelled like sugar and strawberry frosting. Pink balloons clung to the walls. Sophie twirled in her lavender princess dress, her hair clipped back with glitter pins. "Is he coming soon?" It was the third time in an hour. Anna knelt, fixing her hem. "He said he'd try." "But he promised." She tilted her head. Anna smiled, but her eyes turned away, too full to hide the truth. Far across the world, in a quiet hotel room, high above the Singapore skyline, Liam sat alone. The meeting had ended early. The deal was signed. He had everything he came for, and yet his heart ached. On the table in front of him sat a small velvet box. Inside, a delicate silver bracelet engraved with soft cursive words, "Sophie and Mommy, my home forever." He stared at it, then walked to the window. The city stretched far below him. Power, success, wealth, everything he used to chase. But all he could think about was a 4-year-old girl in a purple dress waiting at the door. He whispered to himself, "What am I doing here when everything I want is somewhere else?" He picked up his phone. "Cancel everything," he told his assistant. "I'm going home." Back in New York, the party had started. The room was filled with children, laughter, and frosting-covered cheeks. Anna kept glancing at the clock. It was nearly evening. Her smile was still there, but smaller now, tired at the edges. Then, the doorbell rang. Anna opened the door, and there he was, Liam. Wind in his hair, cheeks red from the cold, breathless. In his hand, the small velvet box. Across the room, Sophie saw him. She screamed in pure joy. "You came!" She ran across the room and threw herself into his arms. "I promised," he whispered, holding her tightly. Anna stood in the doorway, her heart caught between relief and wonder. Liam looked at her, gently placed the box in her hand, and leaned close. "I missed the cake, but I made it to what matters." And in that simple moment, surrounded by glitter, balloons, and a little girl in a tiara, the day became perfect. Not because of gifts, not because of a party, but because someone had kept a promise, and two hearts that never believed in forever finally started to.
The months passed like pages turning in a quiet book. And just like that, it was winter again. One whole year since that Christmas Eve on a park bench. One whole year since a little girl reached out her hand and changed everything. Everything felt different now. Not because Liam had stepped back from the boardroom. Not because Anna had started teaching music at the community center. Not even because Sophie ran through their apartment like a joyful whirlwind every morning. It was because they were together. Not just often, not just visiting, living. Together. They had moved into a new place. Nothing fancy. Just a cozy, sunlit apartment with creaky floors and windows that filled with golden afternoon light. In the corner stood a tall Christmas tree, decorated in gold and white. Near the bottom hung crooked paper stars, handmade by Sophie. One was always upside down, no matter how many times they fixed it. Liam often stood in front of that tree with coffee in hand, Sophie perched on his hip, proudly adding new drawings to the branches. He had never loved a tree more. A few days before Christmas Eve, Liam did something unexpected. He invited Anna and Sophie to dinner. Not just any dinner. Dinner with his parents. Anna looked unsure. "Are you sure?" she asked. Liam smiled. "I want them to meet the people who made me whole." The Bennett home hadn't changed. Tall ceilings, cold marble floors, long silences that echoed too much. But something felt different this time. Liam's mother greeted Anna, not with words, but with a gentle pour of tea and a soft nod. His father, always serious, placed a small silver tin in front of Sophie. Inside, homemade caramels. Her eyes sparkled. "My favorite!" Liam looked up in surprise. His father didn't say a word, but his lips curved just a little. No dramatic apologies, no big speeches, just small gestures. And somehow, that was enough. Christmas Eve arrived again. The apartment was alive. The smell of cinnamon and roasted vegetables filled the air. Soft music played in the background. Laughter drifted from room to room. They invited the neighbors, the single mom from downstairs, the quiet old man who always fed birds in the park, the retired school teacher who still wore holiday pins on her sweaters. It wasn't fancy, but it was warm. It was real. It was home. Sophie darted around in a glittery green dress, cheeks rosy, handing out cookies like she was queen of the North Pole. Liam watched Anna from across the room. Her red dress, her easy smile, the way she moved like joy lived inside her. He reached into his pocket. His fingers touched something soft and small, a velvet box. Later, when the music quieted and the guests had settled into soft conversation, Liam took Anna's hand. He led her beneath the tree. Sophie followed, then paused, sensing something special was happening. Liam turned, slowly knelt down, not for attention, but for meaning. Anna gasped, her hand covering her mouth. He opened the box. Inside was a simple, elegant ring. One diamond, clear and bright. But it wasn't the ring that made her eyes fill with tears. It was his words. "I used to think Christmas was about grand parties. Then you let me in. You fed me at your tiny table. You made me laugh again. You gave me the one thing I thought I'd never have, a seat beside you." He looked at Sophie, now bouncing in place, her hands clenched in excitement. He whispered, "You didn't know it, but you were writing the song I didn't know my life needed." He stood, holding both their hands. "With you, I found home." "Say yes, Mommy," Sophie squealed. "Say yes." Anna nodded through happy tears, unable to speak, but her smile said everything. "Yes," she whispered. The room filled with soft claps and warm cheers. Liam kissed Anna's forehead. He held her hand in one, Sophie's in the other. Under the twinkling lights of their tree, the three of them stood. Not just a couple, not just a child and two adults, but a family. Small, quiet, whole. Outside, the snow began to fall again. And inside,
Liam finally understood what it meant to belong.
Liam had walked into that Christmas Eve a year ago completely alone. He was wealthy, respected, powerful, but still empty. He had no one waiting for him, no one to ask how his day was, no laughter echoing in his hallways, no little hand to hold. He thought loneliness was just something you got used to. But all it took was a small voice, full of kindness. Do you want to have dinner with us? That question changed everything. He found love that night, not the flashy kind with big promises and grand scenes, but the quiet kind. The kind made from mismatched plates, a paper Christmas tree, a little girl's giggle, a woman's steady eyes, the kind that stays. Liam had spent his life chasing deals, climbing ladders, proving his worth. But he found the truest part of himself, not in boardrooms or gala halls, but in a tiny kitchen, lit by one flickering candle, at a table where there was room for him. He didn't earn it. He didn't buy it. He was simply welcomed. That's the magic. Because sometimes, a family isn't something you're born into. It's something you walk into when someone opens the door, sets an extra plate, and makes room in their heart. Here at Soul Starring Stories, we believe that the quietest moments often speak the loudest truths, that kindness heals, that love, when freely given, always finds its way home. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to tap the bell icon so you never miss another story that warms your soul. Thank you for being here. And remember, sometimes all it takes is one small question, one open hand, one extra chair at the table to change someone's life forever.